Welcome to the Bloodcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Bloodcast. I'm sorry for the delay. I had some things on my mind and some things I had to take care of in the German community and especially our Discord server. We elected now 2 moderators in the community to put everything in order, I hope so. And now I can finally go on summer vacation. But before I go on summer vacation, I still have to translate the last German episode into English, and this is what I'm about to do today. The topic of this episode is the right of hospitality, an ancient principle. And there's not much bullshit talk today, despite the Discord thing. But yeah, let's just get into the episode without further ado. The right of hospitality is an ancient concept, older than any legal code, perhaps even older than writing itself. It runs like a red thread through the myths of humankind. Whoever enters your home should find protection. Whoever offers shelter carries responsibility. In the Nordic world, hospitality was considered sacred. So sacred, in fact, that even the gods could not violate it without consequences. And this is where the explosive power lies. This seemingly simple, archaic principle has the strength to question even divine order. Maybe because it's part of divine order. Especially today, in a world shaped by migration, plural identities, and digital communities, it's worth taking a look back. What can we learn from ancient stories? Where do we draw the line between tolerance and naivety? And what happens when hospitality becomes a trial by fire? Prologue. Why we are talking about this now? The idea of hospitality has accompanied human society for millennia, yet it remains deeply relevant, even in digital spaces today and further in the communities or in our social life. But why we're talking about this was because of the Discord server. In our Discord community, we continuously face questions of respect, inclusion, and exclusion. Hospitality is not just an abstract notion, it's a lived ethic, a personal stance, and a moral commitment. Recent events on our server have moved me to revisit this topic in a new episode, this one, especially since I wasn't satisfied with how I handled it previously. So, for all of you who don't know, especially for those English listeners, I had a version of this episode, of the German episode, beforehand, but it was a bit too subjective from my side. And this is my second attempt on this topic to get it an objective view, or so I hope. This episode is meant as a guide, not through rigid dogmas, but through reflection, stories, and cultural memories. Origin and meaning of hospitality. In the Old Norse world, the right of hospitality was a sacred principle, as I said, known as grit, signifying peace, protection, and inviolability. Anyone who entered the household fell under the protection of the host, regardless of their origin, intention, or social rank. This idea is expressed multiple times in the Havamal, the words of the High One. A guest has come, he needs a fire. Bread and clothing does a man need who has journeyed far. It's from the Havamal, stanzas 3-5. It is also contains warnings against hasty judgments. Do not drive away a stranger with a bad reputation. Oftentimes, an enemy proves to be kind. This is Havamal stanza 135. In a world shaped by blood feuds and honor conflicts, hospitality offered a rare sanctuary, and to violate it was a great dishonor. Part 3, or Section 3, Odin as the guardian of hospitality. In Norse tradition, hospitality was not merely a social custom, it held deep spiritual significance. It was not only expected by the gods, but also embodied, tested, and, if necessary, avenged by them. And no figure stands more central in this context than Odin, the wanderer, the masked one, the tester. Odin is often remembered as the god of war, runes, and death, but he is also an eternal traveler. In many myths, he leaves Asgard disguised as an old, one eyed man and wanders through the realms of humans. Along the way, he tests their virtues, their sense of honor, and above all, their hospitality. One of the most powerful stories illustrating this comes from the Eddic poem Grimnismal. The story begins The story begins with what seems like a simple family tale. Odin and Frigg, his wife, raise two human boys, Geirröder and Angar. As they grow older, the boys go their separate ways. Geirröder becomes a king of a realm. Agnar lives in exile with a giantess. Not the baddest outcome. A dispute arises between Odin and Frigg over which of the two foster sons has become the more virtuous man. To settle the matter, Odin decides to test Geirröder personally. Disguised as Grimnir, the masked one, he travels to the king's hall. There he arrives as an old, lonely wanderer seeking shelter. But rather than welcoming him, Geirröder has the stranger seized, suspecting treachery of him. He orders him to be tortured. Odin is placed between two blazing fires for 8 nights without food or shelter. The king had him placed between two fires, and there he sat for. I have it twice there. No one gave him anything to eat or drink. It's from the Grimnismal prose introduction. This is a blatant and brutal violation of hospitality. A stranger entering peacefully is not only denied shelter, but subjected to suffering in the very place meant to offer protection. Geirröder's failure is not just a lapse in etiquette, it's a moral collapse. He mistrusts the visitor simply because he does not recognize him, and that he reveals his weakness. On the 9th day, the old man finally speaks. This begins the poem Grimnismal itself. Odin begins to speak great truths about the world, the realms of the gods, the structure of the cosmos, and he speaks tension builds, and then in a powerful turn he reveals his true identity. We read from stanza 48 to 52, a warning to Geirröder. Long I said, little you gave, Geirröder. You have acted poorly. Among the gods, your name is disgraced. You are stingy, cruel, and blind. You left a hungry man to roast for 8 nights. Is that the conduct of a king? Look at me now. I come to test you. You have failed. I am Odin, the one-eyed, the All-Father. Paraphrased a bit. You tortured a guest, showed him no honor. The one you tormented was Odin himself. Realizing his grave mistake, Geirröder panics. He leaps up to free Odin, but in his haste, his sword slips from his hand. It pierces his own body. He dies by his own weapon, a moment of divine retribution and poetic justice. Then the sword slipped from his hand, fell through his body, and thus Geirröder died. In this scene makes one thing crystal clear. Odin is the examiner, and hospitality is the test. To welcome a guest is not just an act of kindness, but a display of honor. To harm a guest is to violate a law, so sacred that even the gods uphold and enforce it. In Norse thought, hospitality is not a matter of courtesy, it is a sacred contract. And what makes this tale so haunting? The one who fails is not just any man, it's Odin's foster son, a king, a ruler, and who should have known better? The next example of hospitality, the rule of hospitality, is the sacred conflict, Gulveig and the Aesir's violation. it is a bit of a, how can I put it? This story has a bit of a taste to it because the guest that the Aesirs are welcoming in their hall has actually her own agenda. But let us read it. That even gods can break the laws of hospitality with catastrophic consequences is shown in one of the most enigmatic episodes of Norse mythology, the story of Gulveig. It is told in the Völuspá, the first and most central poem of the Poetic Edda, in which a seeress recounts the beginnings of the world, the first great wars, and the eventual fall of the gods. Gulveig is no ordinary figure. She is mysterious, alluring, terrifying, a projection of everything the gods cannot control. Cider magic, greed for gold, transformation, and female power. In stanza 21 to 24 of the Völuspá, it says, "They threw spears in the gods' hall. This was the first war in the world. Gulveig came, a sorceress skilled in cider, casting her spells at will. She was always beloved by wicked women. She entered the hall of the Aesir. She is welcomed, received, and tolerated. Hospitality is granted to her. The Aesir allow her to enter the hall, giving her space and recognition, even though she is a Vanir." So, a part of the other gender of gods. In this gesture lies greatness, but also blindness. When her power becomes apparent, the Aesir grow fearful, and they cannot understand. They seek to destroy. So, in some stories, she gave the gods the gift of greed. So she asked the gods, when you are the leaders of the world or the rulers of the world, how come that you don't have great treasure? Why are you not rich? Where is your gold? Where is your jewelry? Where is your possession? And this made the gods think, because this was a structure, an idea that didn't came upon them until then. But some of the gods actually liked the idea of having possession or being worshipped with materials, and this planted a seed in the Aesir gods that they wouldn't get rid of anymore. So this guest that they welcomed actually gave them something that they couldn't get rid of anymore, and that is greed. We read. The next stanza tells us. So, when they found out about this gift and they were very angry with her, they did the following. 3 times they burned her in the high seat hall. 3 times she was reborn, yet she lives still. Völuspá 22 to 23. This scene is unique in mythology. A being is burned 3 times within the sacred hall of the gods and survives each time. This is not just physical violence, it is a sacred violation. Gulveig was under the protection of hospitality. The Aesir attacked someone whom they had invited and received in their hall. This breach is not without consequences. In stanza 24, the first war of the gods begins, the Aesir-Vanir War. Then all the powers went to the judge seat of Idavölr. The holy gods held council. Should the Aesir pay compensation because of their breaking of the rule of hospitality? Should all the gods bear guilt? This was their first conflict. So the first actually conflict is the conflict between the Aesir gods. But not only that they broke the rule of hospitality, but also that some of the Aesir actually liked the idea or the ideas that Gulveig gave them. And why wasn't she killable at the time? There are 2 possibilities for me. The first one is that she was actually protected by the rule of hospitality, even against the gods themselves, which is crazy. So the rule of hospitality isn't in that idea a higher power or from a higher power than the gods themselves. Or what I more tend to think is that Ulvik wasn't killable at the time because she is no mere being, she's an idea. The idea of greed that even the gods can't get rid of anymore. And I think that's why she isn't killable, because you can't kill an idea. We continue. The breach of hospitality is here marked as a turning point in cosmic history. The first war, the first division, the first rupture in the divine order. It all begins with the Aesir decision to kill someone, or try to kill, under their own protection, simply because she had become threatening to them. What makes this story so powerful is that it shows hospitality is not only a moral challenge, but also a danger. What do we do when the guest brings something we fear? What if the guest is not merely in need, but embodies a principle? Magic transformation, destruction, greed. Ulvik is not a simple victim. She's both catalyst and test, threat, and mirror. Yet the guilt lies with the Aesir, for they broke the law that even Odin is bound by the law of hospitality. From the modern perspective, this episode is a reflection on how we deal with the unknown, and the uncontrollable. The Aesir could have chosen not to welcome Gulvik, but once they had offered her shelter, they were bound to protect her. Instead, they acted out of fear and thus triggered a chain of events that would ultimately lead to Ragnarok. So the real issue with this situation is not that the gods gave her the right of hospitality. There was a right. And it's still not the bad thing of the situation that Gulvik bear gifts that led to infights between the gods or could lead to destruction of the gods. Not even that. The rule break of hospitality is actually the attempt of the gods to kill her for her ideas. They could have just escorted her out. When a guest breaks rules, whatever their rules are, then they can be asked to leave again. But this doesn't come out of these texts that the gods asked her to leave. No, they became hostile at one moment and tried to kill her. This is the quintessential issue with this situation. All right. Where was I? And thus triggered a chain of events that would ultimately lead to Ragnarök. All right. The moral question: which weighs heavier? Gulvik, Gulvik brings chaos, but she acts within the boundaries granted to her. The Aesir, though gods, break a divine principle out of fear and loss of control. So, what is worse, a dangerous guest or a host who violates their own sacred law? Norse mythology offers no simple answer. Instead, it presents us with complex dilemmas and moral trials. Hospitality is not shown here as a rigid rule, but as a spiritual challenge. And this is with a lot of folkloric texts or mythological texts. It's always a invitation to discuss these situations, as I'm trying now with my camera or my listeners. It is an invitation to talk with others about these dilemmas that even the gods had, to learn something for us in our real world. And this brings us to this point, bringing it into the present, hospitality in the digital world. Because as I said beforehand, why am I talking about this hospitality rule? It's because of our Discord community, actually. In online communities like Discord or Facebook or even Twitter, we unknowingly assume the roles of hosts. Someone enters, we see a profile, a few symbols, maybe a short statement, but we don't truly know the person. Hospitality in this space means giving room, listening first and not rushing to judgment. Digital spaces tempt us toward snap judgments, which makes it all the more important to practice conscious ethics. We need to find a balance, protecting our community or our stand, our, I don't know, our view on a topic, while remaining open to genuine encounters and thoughts and beliefs of other people. Practical implication for our server now. Anyone who respects the rules is a guest, regarding of background, beliefs, or opinion. This is the new rule that I try to set up in our server. It was underlying beforehand, but it was not directly communicated. We don't judge people by their symbols, codes, but by their behavior. Those who repeatedly break the rules forfeit their right to hospitality. That's clear. But hospitality is more than a set of rules, it's a posture of openness and trust. Because when a community is strong enough and trusting enough in between, then no gift of destruction or greed or whatever can disrupt this community. And this is very important, that a community is capable of inviting different views. Otherwise, it will be stagnant. So it doesn't grow anymore. It falls into a dogmatic state of rules and thinking without no more influence or fresh influence from the outside. And this is very, very dangerous, because this is how religious crazy people are born, because they have their, what is it called? A sect? Is it called a sect in English? A sect. It is. All right. This is how sects are formed in religious contexts, when there is no more influence from the outside. So this is very, very, very important. I can't stress this enough, that a community that wants to be open and wants to be loving and gentle needs to be sturdy enough and trusting enough with each other that influence from the outside don't destroy it but enrich it, if this makes any sense. Our moderators don't stand above others. This is very important. They stand between them as a bridge building, not gatekeepers. So, as you know, we now have two moderators that I'm very happy with. And maybe at one point we will also have an English version of the Discord. I would love to get in contact with English speaking spiritual people. This would be a great goal for the future. Final thoughts and a personal appeal. On my own spiritual path, so this is now for everybody again, I've spoken with many people: Christians, Jews, Sufis, Krishna devotees, and skeptics. Some conversations confirmed what I believe. Others changed me, but all of them enriched me. Hospitality means creating spaces for others without losing yourself in the process. We live in a democracy that gives us the freedom to build bridges instead of digging trenches. So let us build those bridges, even especially in the spiritual world, through listening, patience, and the courage to walk together. Final appeal of this episode. I'm not a politician, nor do I pretend to be one. Politics is not my field, but I do carry responsibility for this community, for our shared space, and for our Discord server. That's why I must set a fundamental tone. Hospitality, as I understand it, is not a political concept. And precisely because of that, our server is not a place for political battles. In modern society, politics often serve less as a tool for understanding and more as a tool for division. Spirituality, on the other hand, the kind of has the possibility to have an exchange that moves us, uplifts us, and transforms us. It goes deeper. It transcends social boundaries. It invites us to reflect on our higher self, on what lies beneath roles, opinions, and profile pictures. But the foundation of such a meaningful exchange is a modern lived form of hospitality. Only when we allow the others to speak, we can truly understand them. Only then we can agree or choose to disagree with intention and respect. Anything else isn't dialogue, it's just noise. So, I hope this episode made sense for all the non-German speakers and non-German part of the community. It was a wild time on the Discord server for a while, and this episode was necessary to get everything aligned again. And with our moderators on our Discord server, I think we are on a good path to the future. But I hope for the English listeners, it made sense that this rule is still very important even today. And maybe not as easily adaptable into like systems like states or countries, but in our or in your personal life, it should be easy to use some parts of this episode to just give people the option to express their opinion without judging them beforehand. And with that, this is the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening in. As I said, I will be on summer vacation for at least 2 weeks, and then I will start again with the German episode. I can also give a little bit of a spoiler. There will be, I hope, there will be 2 episodes on this topic with the gods. How can I translate that? Give me 1 second. We are in the end, so I can. With the gods on eye level. So there will be 2 parts of this one. The idea that the heathen religions or spiritual ways view the gods not as something that is high above us, but is side by side with us. And this idea or this topic led me into a bit of a rabbit hole, so there's a lot to talk about, and I'm looking forward to it. And the next, so the 3rd episode, a little bit of spoiler there as well, will be about the cult of Odin or Woden that established itself in the middle of Europe and then wandered into the north of Europe. So stay tuned for these episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I see you. You hear me in the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.
Where the mystic waters flow, stories of the gods in whispers soft and low. Odin's raven circle through the myths amassed, guiding souls anew through the pagan podcast. The old tales unfold in echoes bold and vast. In the heart of the forest, the spirits of the past. Drums beat like thunder, voices soar and cast a spell of wisdom deep in the pagan podcast. Modern hearts entwined with the lore of yore, finding paths and travel through ancient door. Heathen souls alight in the present as the past, weaving faith's new tapestry, world beliefs are cast. Under the northern lights, where the cold In each tale a lesson, in each story contrast, reborn